What if I told you that the biggest obstacle holding back your business isn't the economy, isn't your competition, isn't your strategy or the courses or any of that stuff you've learned, but more specifically, it's your lack of belief in yourself. In this video, I'm going to take a dive into how self-doubt quietly undermines your business, and more importantly, what you can do to actually help overcome it. Now, when it comes to business and things like self-doubt, it doesn't just make you feel unsure. It shows up in things like indecisiveness, the hesitation to take bold actions, or what some might call risks. It cause you to be quite reserved a lot of the time because you're lacking that little bit of belief in yourself. And it also manifests into things like procrastination, why people keep putting off the tasks that they know they really should and need to do to actually make progress in the business, to actually get that success. And the self-doubt comes out in procrastination, which means you don't get the shit done that needs to be done. And it keeps you playing really, really small because of that afraid to take the risk because of the fear of failure. And as a result of that, people's businesses just completely stagnate. That's why you'll have people who will never get their business off the ground in the first place, that it doesn't go anywhere, or once they might get a little bit of success, but then it stalls, it plateaus, and it stays at this one position for a long period of time. And that leads to this frustration of, why am I not moving forward? Why can't I do this? Why can't I achieve this thing when everyone else does? And a lot of the time it comes down to something that is so simple, such as self-belief and lack of self-belief. And think of like how many times you maybe had an idea, but you've delayed launching it and taking any real positive action because you felt you weren't ready. And because of that lack of belief and commitment to doing it, you start to chicken out, you start to shit yourself a little bit because you think, oh, well, I'm not really going to go, and you just don't put that full effort into it. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing well. And I don't know how many times I've heard that in my life. And part of it is maybe you just didn't reach out to some of the right connections, the right contacts to get that reassurance, because sometimes that's all people need, is a little bit of reassurance that they're on the right path and they're doing the right thing. And because you went and retreated into yourself and went straight to think you weren't ready, you weren't good enough, you just don't do anything. And what happens is that hesitation to take action, it builds up over a period of time, and before you know it, you're completely stuck in the same spot. You don't move forward at any point, or if you do, it's maybe like a tiny wee step, but then you're right back to where you started again. And a couple of things that I like to highlight of how self-doubt behaves and kind of manifests, and how you can see it as a bigger picture. Because sometimes if you just put a label of self-doubt on it, people go, well, I don't doubt myself. The kind of reaction we have to it is to defend ourselves when we're told we might have a bit of self-doubt. So here's a couple of words that might resonate better than just saying self-doubt. So things like your fear of failure, having that fear that your business will fail, can completely paralyze you, and you avoid making the risks that are necessary for growth. Like, I always like to talk about the comfort zone. Like, the only way you can grow is to step outside the comfort zone. And you think about it when it comes to children. Children are a great example when it comes to good mindset, because they've not been affected by their environment around them yet at such a young age. It can start to creep in a little bit as they get into kind of the younger years, but you're talking raw, fresh brain that's not been tainted by the society and the pressures of everyone else, and by parents and teachers that are maybe saying things, they can't do this, can't do that. So child's brains are limited. They can think whatever they want, they just go with it. And because they're quite willing to push the boundaries, and they're always testing the boundaries, it means they're constantly moving outside their comfort zone. They don't stay in this little safe space here. They're always looking to see where they can go and what they can get away with. And that in turn is what's needed for growth. Stepping outside your comfort zone is necessary for growth. And a lot of people aren't understanding that and getting that. And I want to really hammer that point home, that you have to step outside your comfort zone to get growth. And the next one is things like perfectionism. Being a perfectionist, and when you're striving for perfection, you're always going to fail, because ultimately perfection doesn't exist. It's a fallacy. And it's something I always like to try and reinforce with my clients as well. When they're searching for perfect, perfect doesn't exist, because what's perfect in one person's mind is different to someone else's. What might look like a pile of shit to you looks amazing to someone else. It's so wide varied. There's so many types of, so many variations on it. It's so subjective in a massive way, perfectionism. And I know I've done, I've put things out, content, etc., that I've thought was incredibly good, and it's fell flat in its face, and other things I've put out that I thought, oh, can I rush that and put it together just for the sake of it? And it's done incredibly well. So striving for perfection is really just another form of procrastination that just holds you back. And that perfectionism, it masks itself as a desire for excellence, but really what it is underneath is a fear of being judged for making mistakes. And that's what happens. That's why people procrastinate and don't go ahead and put things out, and then that's where the self-doubt comes in with it as well, is that fear of making the mistakes or being judged, because you think that's not up to this standard, therefore people are going to judge it. However, you'd be surprised the amount of things that people are grateful for. And something I learned is just because I know it doesn't mean everyone else knows it. And that's where you're kind of undervaluing your own learnings and teachings, for example. And then when I talk about a massive amount is things like imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome makes you feel like a fraud, like you don't deserve success. So you hesitate putting yourself out there. You start to doubt yourself of, am I really this good? Am I really an expert in this field? Do I really have enough knowledge? Can I really charge people for this knowledge? Can I charge for this help? And because of all those things, that swings into your self-doubt. It's coming right back into where we are just now. And I know it's something I have struggled with massively at times, is things like imposter syndrome, especially when you transition into different fields. You're maybe not got a huge background, what you perceive as not having a huge background, especially when I switch towards mindset coaching, thinking, well, I don't really have the counselling thing, I don't really have this thing. Completely unaware that your life experience is massively important. And I've always been a big believer of you learn more by doing. So whoever has the practical skills, who've actually applied it, is going to be much more beneficial than someone who's maybe educated to a certain level, because you still have to apply it. And sometimes textbooks don't always work in the real world. So you have to really have both, or at least have the practicalities of implementing it in the first place. And there becomes this kind of misconception with people who are really successful that they must be so confident, they must have amazing self-belief. Not really. It doesn't always work out that way. The most successful entrepreneurs that are not the ones that have got the perfect strategies and have got all this fine-tuned framework down to a T. That becomes part of it at some point later, but that's not the key part of it. It's the ones who have got complete faith and belief in their ability to make things happen, even when they don't have all the answers. It's having the belief of, well, I'll figure it out. I know I'm going to figure it out. Whereas a lot of people will not put things out there until it's what they think is completely finished because of all the doubts behind it. But when you put it out there, you can see what works and what doesn't, and then you can make the tweaks and changes and then send it out again. Like, nothing's ever completely finished. Like, so many people have got businesses and courses and etc. online where they've tweaked it and changed it over the years and improved on it. But you have to take the initial steps and actions first to get to that stage. And think about all the different entrepreneurs over the years who maybe had one business that's launched and that's failed, and they've tried a different and that's been successful, or they've tried a few different times and they've got success. Think of sports stars that maybe, like Michael Jordan's a prime example of like playing high school basketball, thinking he was never going to be anything great, and then we know the rest from there. Many athletes who just keep grinding out and keep trying because they're not giving up. They start to ingrain that belief in themselves that they're going to achieve it, they're going to get there. And the belief doesn't come from knowing everything and being the best at everything. It comes from that conviction that you'll figure things out as you go, that you will get better. If the reason you haven't gone ahead and done anything yet is because you think you're not good enough, go ahead and get started. You'll see where you're at in the scale of things. And when you see where you're at, you know the change you need to make to get better the next time. It's all a continuous building process, and we build upon and build upon and build upon these foundations we create when we take that initial action that so many people get scared of. So there's a couple of steps to help build this kind of unshakable self-belief. Start by becoming aware of the kind of stories that you tell yourself. What are you saying internally or sometimes externally, because people do talk to themselves. It's not a sign of madness, it's a sign of intellectual conversation sometimes. What beliefs are you kind of holding on to that make you feel unworthy or not capable? Is it something someone said? Is it something you're internalizing all the time? Is it something you've put out there that's maybe failed? What is the reason that you think that you're unworthy or not capable of achieving that goal? Start writing that down and start to challenge it. When we challenge our beliefs, it becomes a little bit tricky, a bit uncomfortable, but that uncomfortableness is what we need to grow as well. So whenever the self-doubt starts to creep in, start challenging it more and more. Instead of thinking, I can't, start to ask, what if I could? So I can't create content. What if I could create content? I can't earn 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 a month. What if I could earn that a month? Depending on where your business is, whether you're just getting started or you're trying to move to that next monthly milestone that you're working for. And then we suddenly start to turn all these obstacles into that opportunity for growth. Because that's what we're always looking for. We're always looking for continuous growth so we can move on and get to those next levels and never just be stuck at this point where we've plateaued and can't move forward. And the next step, we take small but bold actions. Things that aren't risky are really not worth it. Do the little bits, yeah, fine, but you really need to be moving forward and getting outside that zone. The confidence you'll get will come from taking action. Start with a small one, but one that's maybe possibly big from your old way of thinking. Something that's going to step you outside your comfort zone on a regular basis. For some people, it might just be going live just to get used to being on video. For anyone who doesn't like going on video, one of the things that I did early on was I would just record myself walking around the house talking and then just have a listen back to it. Didn't post it, but it was enough for me to get comfortable with being on camera and speaking on camera a bit more. And that's something that you build up. You don't get good at that straight away. You do take time. Look at creators like Mr. Beast, for example. First early content, absolute dog shit. But I get better and better, and look where it is now. It starts with the small goals to get it, the small wins to get us outside that comfort zone more and more and more each day. And for lack of a better phrasing, you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then you will start to grow. Surround yourself with positive influences. People who matter. Get your network of like-minded people who can uplift and support you. We've got so many trolls and arseholes online that just continuously post shit after shit after shit after shit to everyone and anyone just to make them feel bad because their own lives are unfulfilled and meaningless. That's the extent of it. A lot of online trolls have unfulfilled, meaningless lives, and that's why they feel the need to go and attack others, because other people are actually trying to do something with their lives, and it's pretty pathetic. And we'll see what comments I get from this. I really couldn't give two shits. But to recap and close this off, self-doubt might be silently sabotaging your business, but the good news about it is you can actually change it by challenging your beliefs and taking those bold actions. If you're ready to stop letting self-doubt hold you back, hit the like button, hit subscribe button. You get a lot more content. You can see things on the previous posts on the channel. And don't forget, if you click in the link in the pinned comment, you can go over and join the SKOOL community where I talk about mindset and mental wellbeing for business owners on a weekly basis. Also, let me in the comment, what's one belief that you need to let go of to grow your business?